All right, 1 second here. All right, we're going to go into this Q&A. Again, we'll go into this Q&A. And a question come up earlier, I guess a few days ago. And whatever, it was Kashr's question. So just sort of deal with it, see where it goes. There's a question about whatever, eating a certain, I don't know, reptile, I guess kind of delicacy, I'm not sure exactly. Doesn't necessarily whet my appetite. But the Torah makes clear a number of times, right, what you're allowed to eat, what you're not allowed to eat, right? Any animal doesn't have a what do you call it? Cleft foot, choose its cut, right? It's not kosher. If it has one sign, not the other, right? It has to have both signs. It has to have cloven hooves, and it has to chew its cut. Now, if it has one and not the other, right? Torah gives few examples of a few animals that only have one character trait, right? That they only have one kosher character trait, right? You got certain rabbits and whatever. You got pigs, got one, one kosher symbol, etc., which makes it very interesting how Moshe Rabbeinu knew that. I mean, unless he was Dr. Doodle and he played with the animals, but like those are the only exceptions, right? The Torah gives a number of exceptions that only have one character trait, not the other, right? So animals that chew its cud and have split hooves are going to be kosher. Every other animal is going to be forbidden. So yeah, you got a handful of animals. You got cows, goats, sheep, etc. What you can eat, birds. Have a certain number of kosher birds as well. But the whole laundry list of birds that we don't eat. So we don't eat predators, etc. But Torah gives us a nice laundry list of birds you're not allowed to eat. Very good. And then basically any other creepy crawly thing, right? Anything that either flies in the air that's not, a kosher bird, i.e. insects, which probably doesn't whet most people's appetite, I would assume, right? Depends what part of the world you live in. But so any creepy crawly thing, anything that's close to the ground, anything that is, um, an amphibian, reptile, all those things all those things are going to be all these things are going to be forbidden. Now, can a person, and I think we spoke about this also, can a person use an animal, for their skin, for their hide? Answer is yes. Now, some people would say, get all these pet activists, PETA activists, whatever you call them, preserve wildlife and all that. It's cruelty, right? It's cruel. It's cruel to animals. So we said we're allowed to use animals to our benefit as long as we don't abuse them, right? So we don't consider that abuse. We consider that's for our purpose, even for boots, whether I want to use I don't know, alligator skin boots, pocketbook, purse, whatever. We use their hide for that, yeah. Because they hide, we take it off and it hurts the animal. You're allowed to, right? That's part of the process. You're not allowed to cause excessive cruelty. We don't hold that's cruel, right? That's part of the process. We could use animals for, trying to cure diseases. It's also permissible. It's not abuse, right? It's definitely not abuse. And we mentioned also, you're obligated to feed your animal before yourself, right? Common decency, even if the animal thinks you're eating better food or whatever, it doesn't matter. You got to feed them first. And even if they come to you for scraps afterwards, whatever, you don't have to worry, but you have to feed them, right? You have to feed them. You have to feed them first. But cruelty to an animal also applies to a non-Jew, right? Definitely applies to a non-Jew. Question is it a Torah prohibition or or rabbinic prohibition. There is a discussion that the Talmud goes through, that whether it's forbidden on a Torah level or rabbinic level. Bottom line, it's a bad thing to do either way, right? Either way, it's cruel. So anything that's going to be cruel, right, to animals, we spoke about, is going to be forbidden, right? 100%. 100% is going to be forbidden. So, hunting animals, right? That's going to be forbidden, right? That's for sure going to be forbidden. So hunting for sport should be forbidden for non-Jews also, right? Definitely should be forbidden for non-Jews as well. It's cruel, right? Chasing after animals, spoke about that. It's cruel, right? If a person was starving, right? If you were starving, different issue, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about hunting for sport. Hunting for sport in general would be forbidden 100% for Jews. It should also be forbidden for non-Jews, right? I don't think it should be too much question. It's cruel, right? If non-Jews are obligated, right? If non-Jews, are obligated in that, right? They can't be cruel. Then also be forbidden, right? Certainly would also be, forbidden as well. So, fish. Forgot to mention fish, right? Holy fish, and that is by fish. What fish are you allowed to eat? What fish are Jews allowed to eat? Any fish that is scales and fins, right? So again, very interesting how Moshe Rabbeinu knew that. The earth is 70% water, so he would have had to hire a lot of people travel all over the world, right, in order to verify this and to know which species are kosher or not. But he tells you a fundamental principle is God tells them any fish that's going to have scales will have fins, right? Unless, and there has been a case where everyone's told me about it a number of years ago. There has been a case where, so again, a kosher fish is a fish that has scales and fins. You'll never have a fish that has scales doesn't have fins. But there was a case where two fish were breeded together, and one was a kosher fish and one was a non-kosher fish, and the offspring of these fish were fish that had scales and fins. Now that's obviously a problem, right? That is obviously a problem. Why is it a problem? Because we have a general principle, we have a halachic principle, an axiomatic principle of Jewish law, and that is anything comes out from something that's stomach, that is a forbidden thing, right? Forbidden animal, whatever it may be, can't eat. You can't eat. What's the problem? Simple problem. Very, very simple problem. And that is, it's got scales and fins. I got a new species, genetically modified. Okay. Well, not as a genetically modified, whatever. They put two species of fish they shouldn't have put together. They put together, and now comes out as fish that has scales and fins. So now I've got a major problem. And the major problem is, the reason is because the general principle says anything that comes out from something forbidden is forbidden. But it's got all the kosher symbols. It's got scales and fins. Very good. But it came out from something non-kosher. Yeah. So we can run into more problems than we need by playing around with creation. Now, playing around with creation, also forbidden for non-Jews, right? This is one of the Noahide laws, or seemingly one of the Noahide laws. It's a question that the Gemara asks. By grafting, are you allowed to graft plants together? Does that apply to non-Jews? Right? What's the issue? Let's say you took a peach and a plum. You put them together and make a nectarine. Very good. Yeah, for a Jew, forbidden. What about a non-Jew? Yeah, so the question's asked by a non-Jew. Not only that, what's the status afterwards? Can you eat it? Right? So there are things that might be forbidden to eat. Sorry, might be forbidden to do. But if it's done, you can eat it. Right? So that would be permissible. That we hold is permissible. Something of a mixture of milk and meat. Right? It says don't cook a calf in its mother's milk. Mentions it 3 times, Torah. Torah mentions it 3 times. Once, tell me you're not allowed to cook it. Second thing, even if you don't eat it. One is to tell me you're not allowed to eat it. Third thing is to tell me you can't get benefit. So mixture of milk and meat, I can't get benefit. Right? I'm not allowed to get benefit from. So therefore, I got to make sure I dispose of it, or somebody disposes of it where no one's going to get benefit from. Right? Throw it in the garbage as long as no animal's going to get to it. Okay. Or flush it down the toilet, even better. Right? So there are certain things that you are forbidden to get benefit from, even if it's done. Other things are permissible, even though it's forbidden to do in the first place. So one of the cases where the thing that you did was forbidden to do, but you're allowed to get benefit from it, is grafting. Right? It's taking these 2 plants, putting them together and eating, and making a different species. So a nectarine you can eat. Now the question would be, should you eat it? Right? That would be the question. Are you allowed to eat it because it was put together, but it was put together in a forbidden way. Even if it was done by a non-Jew, it's still forbidden. Right? It's forbidden to do, because they're not allowed to play with creation either. So the question is it tainted? Right? That'll be the question. Is it tainted? Should I be allowed to eat it? What's the answer? I'm allowed to eat it. I'm allowed to eat it. It's no problem. They did it, but they did it in a forbidden way. Very true. But the halacha is I can get benefit from it. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? I'm allowed to get benefit from it. Does it mean, well, you really shouldn't have done it? So getting benefit from it's not good, right? But we allow it. Or do we say no? Once it's done, it's done. Like you get benefit later, right? I can totally get benefit later, right? So that'd be the question. That would be the question. So we hold that even though it's done a forbidden way, I'm allowed to eat it. Right? I'm allowed to eat it. I don't have to worry about it. Someone's going to say, but it was done a forbidden way. So maybe I shouldn't eat it. I don't know. I don't know too many people don't eat nectarines, right? Or don't eat other things that are whatever they may be. They're grafted together, right? It doesn't mean you're allowed to do it. You, as a Jew or a non-Jew for that matter, shouldn't do it. Not allowed to do it. Get benefit from it, it's a different issue. Right? That's a different issue. So that's the short, long answer about kashrus. So someone here asks, getting closer to Passover here, right? Passover question, quinoa. Can it be labeled kosher for Passover? So the question is it a grain? Is it really considered a grain, right? That's the question, right? So there is rabbinic supervision says it is, right? That says it is. Now, why would it be? Why would it be okay? So probably it's okay for Sephardim, right? If you're Sephardic, why? Because what would quinoa is what we call kidneys, right? Kidneys or legumes. Are forbidden for Ashkenazim. Right? You got to remember, just hit this quickly. Chametz, anything leavened can come from any one of the 5 grains. Wheat, barley, spelt, rye, or oats, which has, leaven from most likely from fermentation. Yeah, flour also in these 5 grains came in contact with water or any moisture. And it was baked, after 18 minutes. We also hold it is considered a leavened product. Now, quinoa is not considered a grain, right? We don't look at it as one of these grains. It's not really related in any way to any of these grains. So therefore, really, it's not chametz, right? It really quinoa is really, I guess, comes from the from the family of beets. Or spinach. Nonetheless, there is an issue, though. The issue is it considered kidney oats. Kidney oats is literally legumes, right? Beans and that type of stuff. They can be confused with forbidden grains, right? In general. Again, it could be rice, corn, soybeans, string beans, lentils, any of these type of things. And by Ashkenazim, we don't eat it. Now we don't eat it because it could have been mixed with other forbidden grains. Some will say, today that doesn't really apply, but there's been a general ban on it by Ashkenazim anyway, right? So it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter. So we don't really eat it anyway. Quinoa, though, what's the issue? Quinoa is grown in close proximity, right? So it could become chametz, right? That's, maybe it is, consider like barley, right? And that's, and that's why it was originally banned anyway, because a lot of things came in contact or very close contact with barley, but it's often processed in factories as other grains. And you could say, well, maybe the utensils that you use are not, rinsed properly, whatever, when the production's done. So therefore, there could be chametz traces on the parts of this or whatever, in the factory. So therefore, that would most likely, be an issue. But some kosher organizations discovered that any farmers that have quinoa, they cover it, right? They cover it with barley or oats. Why would they do that? So you don't have any birds. You don't have any birds eating from it when it dries. Now, if they did that, what would be the concern? What would be the concern? Kernels. There'd be, let's say, maybe they're wheat kernels or something, in there. And the sacks used to transport it may have held what? Barley or oats. And it could be, some trace of barley or oats that are in it. So according to this, if you're Ashkenazic, right? So Ashkenazim do not eat, we don't eat kidney, right? We do not eat kidney. In any case, if you were Sephardic, it would need rabbinic supervision. That there's no question, right? To tell you that is kept in far away contact with barley and other grains, right? To make sure it's not a not an issue. But there are kosher organizations that do give rabbinic supervision on on quinoa. That is that seems to be what the case is. So the question would be, I guess bottom line, right? Question is, can you eat it? Right? Can you find it with rabbinic supervision? Yes. Right? You should be able to find it with rabbinic supervision. Now, the question was, though, can you eat it? So you got two questions there. Could you find it with rabbinic supervision? Yes. Can you eat it? Depends. Right? Depends which direction you go. If you're Ashkenazic, we don't eat it. Right? There's a general ban on legumes, on kitnio, we don't eat it. Right? If you're Sephardic, it's got proper rabbinic supervision. You can eat it, right? If you're Sephardic. It's called smoked salmon. Can it be kosher without proper kosher symbol? So I assume you mentioned not just by Passover, but if it's smoked, it's more of a problem. If, let's say, a person bought salmon in a marketplace, yeah, they bought, or even better, bought in the supermarket, yeah. They brought salmon. It's raw, right? It's raw. So if it's raw, the only question would be, what was the cut? What type of knife was the cut with? Was a knife used to cut non-kosher things? That would be the only issue. So if it was, and you're worried, so you can cut a sliver about an inch around the salmon, then you can eat it, right? That shouldn't be, shouldn't be an issue. If it's smoked, that's a different issue. Smoking something that's like actually cooking it, right? Could be like cooking it. That needs proper rabbinic supervision, right? Certainly during the year, right? All the more so on Passover. So yeah, it would need proper rabbinic supervision. Somebody asks, washing hands. Okay. Question comes up a lot. Okay. Washing hands for in the morning or before washing for bread. If you're using a small cup, can it be relied on during the washing? Depends how small the cup is. Yeah. Yeah. Let's say it runs out after third or fourth pouring. Right. Or you need to be all done in one. No. It doesn't have to be done in one fell swoop. Keep in mind, if you wake up in the morning, how many times you wash your hands? 3 times, right? Take the cup in the right hand. You go to your left, left to right, right to left, 3 times, right? You have to fill up more water, fill up more water. Yeah, 3 times. Now, person goes to the bathroom. Anytime you wash your hands after that, you wash them twice, right? So you're washing for bread. You wash, even if you had a small cup, so you have to fill it up a whole bunch of times. Doesn't have to be in one shot. Does not have to be in one shot. It just so happens. It just so happens that what do I have? What I have is that by bread, washing for bread. What can I do? I should use more water, right? I should definitely use more water. If I have a small cup, I don't have a big cup, right? So yeah, you should fill up the cup a whole bunch of times, right? 100%. You should fill it up a whole bunch of times, in order that you're covered, right? In other words, you're not using even if you use one of these plastic, what they call negavasser cup, right? Even if you would use a plastic cup, one second here. If you would use a cup that's a nice size cup, right? Even if it would be a nice size cup. So I still would need to probably fill it up and use it again, right? You don't normally do it in one shot, right? You don't normally do it in one shot. And you should use a cup. You shouldn't use it just directly from the source, right? You should definitely use a cup. Now, could you use a plastic cup? Yeah. One of these negavasa cups they use, to wash the plastic. Could I use a plastic drinking cup? In theory, you could, right? As long as you didn't drink from it first. Better certainly not to use a cup that you drank from, but you could, right? So if you have a small drinking cup, I'm not saying a shot glass, right? I'm not going to exaggerate it, right? Let's say you had a cup. Yeah, you run out of water, so you got to keep filling it. It doesn't have to be done in one shot, right? It certainly does not have to be done in one shot. You can fill it up 5 times, 6 times, and keep keep doing it. Put it on one hand and then fill it up 4 or 5 times. Do it on the other hand, right? But one thing to keep in mind is that the only time you ever wash 3 times usually is right when you wake up. Right when you wake up in the morning. If you what do you call it? If any other time after you go to the bathroom, you wash your hands for bread. Any other time you wash twice. Right? You wash twice, and when you wash, you got to make sure you cover your whole hand. Right? You have to cover your whole hand right here up until your wrist. Up until your wrist. All right? That's how far you should cover it. Yeah, someone here mentioned, what do you call it? Catfish, scavengers. Yeah, we don't eat scavengers. We don't eat those type of fish, catfish, shrimp, any of these things. People love shrimp. There's some people that love shrimp. Very interesting. Shrimp are like cockroaches of the sea. Now, most people would say, I don't care, I'm going to eat it anyway. Like, what difference does it make? However it's made, whatever sauce they put it in, different things. That's what it is. Essentially, you're eating a cockroach of the sea. Okay, right? Now, some people say it doesn't matter. So I grew up in Boston. What do they love to eat in Boston? Oysters, right? You slurp these oysters or cogs or whatever. All these things, right? Boston is a seafood place. Yeah, clams, oysters, these type of things. You think about it, this is kind of gross. If you think about it, people don't care. People don't care. They'll put whatever in their mouth. That doesn't, it doesn't matter. Right. But we don't need any of these things. We don't need, shellfish, scavengers, any of these, any of these things. Now, again, we said by non-Jews doesn't apply. If they want to eat it, they can eat it. It doesn't affect them. Right. It does not affect them the same way as it does a Jew. By a Jew, even though, as we mentioned many times, science might not have proven it. Science might not have proven that it's bad. It's bad for the it's bad for your soul. Nonetheless, that's not the only reason. We keep kosher. We don't eat these things. So, for Jews, it can affect them in a negative way. It can dull their spirit. It can make them apathetic. That, as we mentioned many times, does not apply to a non-Jew. And the Kli over there, as we read in last week's parsha, right, about kashrus, about which animals kosher or not kosher. So the Kli there says, since you see non-Jews eating all kinds of things, you see doesn't affect them in a negative way, then why would they do it? In other words, why would they want to keep kosher in the first place? There's no benefit for them. Right? That's what the Kli says. Yeah. So he says, if it's got no benefits, right, keeping the universal law is a benefit. They're a benefit. I'm not talking about moral imperatives. Things that are forbidden for non-Jews to do. Yeah, there's a benefit. There's a benefit for not doing it. Okay. This has no benefit. Right? Why does it have no benefit? Because it doesn't affect a non-Jew like it does a Jew. Right? So there's no benefit. Now, someone will say, but even non-Jew doesn't mean they get, they do get credit for it, again, up to a point. Depends what they do, depends what their purpose in doing it is. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in general. The Kli says it doesn't affect them. If it doesn't affect them, so why would they do it? That's the question. That's the question he asks. It basically says if it doesn't have an effect on them, they're not going to do it. It has to have benefit for them. Here, there's no benefit. Oh, I'm only eating something clean. I'm only eating something that's not impure. Very good. That's not enough of benefit. It doesn't affect them. Right? It doesn't affect them. So if it doesn't affect them, right, then why would they do it? Now, a JIT, right, a Jew in training, up until the last second before they go to the mikveh, they can eat as much non-kosher as they want. Doesn't affect them. They're not Jewish yet. So everyone's so I said what you would tell someone, right at that point, you would tell them they can do all this non-kosher stuff. He said, are they Jewish? I said no. He said they go to the mikveh? I said no. So they said then, if they're not Jewish, they can do it. I said, but would you tell people to do it? So he asked me again. He said, do they go to the mikveh? No. So they're not Jewish. Right? Now I would tell people that at some point, person wants to go in this path, yeah, so they have to start keeping kosher. Very good. Right? They should start keeping kosher at some point. At what point? Depends on the person. Right? Depends on the person. Now, some people have certain desire for non-kosher things. Okay. Right? It's gonna be harder for them to do. Other people say, okay, this is what the Torah says, I'm gonna do it. Right? They'll wean themselves off it or whatever. Okay, but again, if it doesn't affect them, why would they do it? Right? That's the question. Then you got these super no-hides will say, no, I can do it and I have a right to do it. Well, it doesn't affect them, so why are you doing it? Right? Remember, the Rambam says, if you straddle the lines and you're doing things that you're not supposed to do, you're making up a new religion. Making up a new religion is forbidden. Right? Totally forbidden. So they have to keep what they have to keep. Now, certain things are they allowed to do? The someone can't do as a Jew, no question. Right? But if they want to tap in a way that's permissible, okay. Up to a point. Right? Up to a point. Because either you want to do a lot more, become a Jew, very good, or not. Right? If not, you got to know what your boundaries are. Now, are there limitations? Sure. right? There's limitations in prayer. There's limitations, in ritual. It's a lot of limitation over here. Okay, right? So someone can say, well, that's a big drawback. Fine, it's big. It's a big drawback. Right? It's a big drawback. Okay, yeah. So convert. No, but I can't, or I don't want to, or whatever. Okay, but you can't go over the limit, right? You can't straddle the line, be this super non-Jew, and doing things that are forbidden that you can't do, right? Things that don't apply, right? Now, I would always tell people, people say, well, why should I stay non-Jew? Why take 5% when I could have 100%? Okay, good point. Yeah, good point. But I always tell people, listen, I can keep you busy for the next 250 years as a non-Jew, not a problem. Plenty of things to learn. Plenty of things for non-Jews to learn. Jewish philosophy and ethics, and Tanakh, going to the prophets, the writings, the 5 books of Moses, plenty what to keep you busy with. Plenty. Yeah. But you're right. There aren't so many communities. There aren't so much ritual. You're right. Right? That is true. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. So a person says, nah, my soul really feels like this, and it's what I should be doing. I want to go through conversion. Very good. And if not, stay the way you should. Don't overstep your boundaries. But there's plenty what to learn. Plenty what to learn. Yeah. Problem is, people will say, but I want to learn things that are forbidden, right? So if I would tell you, listen, learning this and learning that, no, totally forbidden. I say, oh, totally forbidden? Now I definitely want to learn it, right? Now I definitely want to see it, and I see a lot. I mentioned this, I don't know, I was talking to someone, I mentioned a class recently. I've seen I think I mentioned the Noahide class. I've seen many times, people out there, their ears wet in Judaism, so to speak, or maybe they've been learning for a while, this and that. It could very well be. It doesn't really matter, right? And they're talking about, 10 spiritual worlds and what it represents, and I'm like, all this and all that. I'm like, you got to be kidding. Wouldn't take one thing they say seriously. Probably never learned a tractate of Gemara in their lives. They don't know how to learn, right? If they don't know how to learn, what am I going to take seriously to say about Kabbalah? For goodness sakes, if you don't know how to, you don't learn to run unless you know how to crawl. You can't study higher mathematics. You can't study calculus if you don't know algebra, trigonometry. You can't jump levels there. It's like trying to go from 1 to 1,000,000 in one shot. It can't happen, right? And it shouldn't happen because you're missing all the steps in between. So yeah, you have to have your soul filled with a lot of Torah, with a lot of mitzvahs, and then without even speaking about that, you got to be on a high spiritual level because this stuff is potent. If a person really learning Kabbalah, whatever, Torah can be, the Gemara says, it can be Samachim. It can be like the elixir of life, like really give you life, or it could be Samamavis. It could kill you. Literally, it could kill you because you're using it the wrong way. Now, it could be very powerful the way you want to use it. Very good. So God's telling you, I don't want you tapping into this, which gets in the whole question. Why did God allow people to get involved in sorcery? Or a better question, why did God create evil? Right? This comes up a lot. Right? Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. What does Isaiah say? And everyone agrees Isaiah is a prophet. What did he say? God created evil. This is the problem for the Christians. So if you look at a proper translation and King James, what does King James do? Like the Christians always do, manipulates the language. They change it. Can't read Hebrew for the life of them, so they change it in order to fit their world outlook. Why do they want it to fit their world outlook? Because where does evil come from? Where does evil come from? Mr. S. The Satan, the evil inclination, the angel of death, whatever you want to call him. He's the one causing people to sin, do other things. But they're going to say, right, he's a fallen angel, and that's where evil comes from. I spoke to someone recently, the Zoroastrian, right? I know somebody told me like in India, there are like 50,000 Zoroastrians or whatever, or 200,000, I think he said, whatever it was. So I was interested about the Noahide laws. Very good. I said, how can you be a Zoroastrian and be a Noahide at the same time? Contradiction in terms. So he said, why? I said, well, don't Zoroastrians believe there's a good God, there's a bad God? The good God does good things, bad God does, cause all these different problems, what goes on in the world. So he says, yeah, I mean, it's an oversimplification, obviously, but That's basically the point. So I said, how could you be Noahide? That's idolatry. Checkmate, right? He's like, I said it's idolatry. One of the 7 Noahide laws is, you can't believe in idolatry, right? That's giving a power. That is absolutely giving a power to something that doesn't have power, because nothing comes outside of God. And that I've been giving this class for, I don't know, the last 3-4 months. More in the beginning of Duties of the Heart. Go to nohidenations.com. You can sign up for free. And under the class Duties of the Heart, I start at the beginning. And the beginning, no one ever learns, because it's, ask a lot of questions according to faith, like, how do we know there's one God? Just talking about anthropomorphism, right? How do we understand God's character traits? You can't understand I spoke about this last week. You can't understand the essence of God, right? So you can talk about what he's not, right? But you can't understand his essence. And you can't say really God is spiritual, because it's not really spiritual either. So it's complex. A lot of people say don't learn it, because, then it gets into, a person starts asking questions. We're not so bad, right? But he proves beyond the shadow of a doubt why there's only one God. And why there can only be one God, right? And why that one God is absolute, why there's no one else, etc. So, within all that, these are good questions. These are definitely, definitely good questions. So I can understand why, why would you want to open up a Pandora's box here, right? Give it over to others, then you're going to make people think, and they may stray off the path. But he's got, the way he goes through it, he's using 100% pure logic. He's not using Kabbalah. He's not using, oral law. He's not quoting what the rabbis say. He's using pure logic, right? Pure logic. He spoke very interesting last week. I'll just throw one thing out there. He was talking about the fact that, we have different senses, right? We have basically 5 senses, right? Sight, hearing, smell, right? Touch, taste. We also have spiritual senses. Now, and everything we're stemmed from the mind. But he was talking about, I don't really think about this. Each of our senses is limited. In other words, I can see something now, right? Because I got my, these glasses on, I can see far away, right? But if I were to see really far away, I wouldn't be able to see very much, right? I can only see I'm limited, right? Like everybody's limited. Hearing, you're limited. What you taste is limited, right? But each one has its own limitation. But each one together can help a person understand understand a lot about what they're doing, right? They could see something. Food will give it an example, right? They can see something. They can see what it is. They have no idea how it tastes. Now, someone's telling them, well, I put this spice in it, that spice in it, with something else. So now the person's thinking, oh, it's going to be very spicy now, because of some of the spices they put in. But they haven't tasted it yet. So here I heard something, I saw something, and now I'm going to taste it, right? But each one is limited. So, it's limited. So what I saw, I don't necessarily know what it tastes like, for sure not. But now that I heard something, now I understand what it might taste like. I still don't know what it tastes like. Maybe, maybe it's spicy or not. Or, let's say all the ingredients are bland, except they said they put in, a red pepper. They put in a hot pepper. No, they put in a hot pepper. You're gonna say, well, it's gonna be very spicy, very good. So one of my kids likes things very spicy, but what do you call it? Like these hot peppers. They said not so spicy, right? I don't know, whatever. These ones, weren't so spicy. So like, all right, let me taste that. Yeah, and it wasn't. At least they were telling the truth, right? It wasn't so spicy. But you think about it. So he's telling you how all these things work, right? I saw, I heard, now I'm tasting. But now it's going into your mind what it is. Your mind is putting everything together. Yeah, your soul does the same similar thing. So whatever, he goes this whole thing, right? He goes this whole thing. How you have these different attributes of, physical attributes, but also spiritual attributes and how they work together. But, you never really think about it. A person sits down and eats something, right? Right? Or you see something, right? You see something where it's not so far away. You see it, fine. You see it, and then your mind comes up with different ideas. What it is, what it represents, different things with all these other factors. Saw something, you heard something, you felt something, whatever it is. So we don't, we take this for granted. But, when you think about how it all works and how the whole thing is put together, this is pretty incredible. You gotta think, come on, that's the way the brain works. You got these senses. Yeah, but, think about how the mechanism of a person works and how the insides work and how the nerves work and, how we see it, the eye itself, billions and billions of miracles, how the eye works and how it's able to, take in, take in colors and see and refract them and like all kinds of things, and then what it represents in their mind, right? So you say, come on, right? What would an atheist say? An atheist would say, come on, that's the way the person's made, right? This is biology 101. We're going to keep this clean. This is biology 101. Okay, you're right, biology 101. Yeah, but who made it like that? It's pretty incredible, right? It's pretty incredible the way it is. Right? I don't think there's any question. But, we don't think about it. We don't think about these things. Yeah. Somebody here mentions same as pork, genetically modifying the soybeans. I'll tell you a story. I went to my Rabbi. I was there with my wife. Anyway, I was asking different questions, and I was asking things about, nutrition and health, and so she asked them. Some people claim, soy products are healthy. Some people claim that. So it's like those are the most probably unhealthy things you could eat. So they're like, what do you mean? So he said, what are the things they inject in the soybean in order for it to grow quicker and stronger? They give it protein. Yeah. They give it protein so it grows a lot quicker, a lot faster, et cetera. So Rabbi said, what's the protein? What's the protein they put in? So they said they put in, a little bit of, rat protein goes in. Yeah. Put in a little bit of a rat protein, sounds gross, right? Gives it like a really, strong oomph. I don't know exactly biologically how this works or whatever, but, whatever. Right. So I asked them, okay, if that's the case, then how are we allowed to eat it? And keep in mind, 70% of everything we eat has soy in it. Cereals, cookies, cakes, other things, all have soy in it. So if it's got soy in it, how can a Jew eat it? How can a Jew eat it? So Rabbi said, so that's a question a little bit different. He's saying that if you say this is the main, the soybean's the main thing, but this is the thing that's giving the soybean like its juice or whatever. So you're saying it plays a very significant role. So if that's the case, and the axiomatic principle of kashrus, this thing that you injected into it can never be nullified. Right? Even though you got the soybean itself, it can't be nullified. If the thing can't be nullified, right? There's no way of nullification here. According to kashrus, how could I eat it? How can a Jew eat it? 70% of everything we eat, you wouldn't be allowed to eat. So as my Rabbi, I said, okay, good question. I said, let's say, all this is true. Yeah. So how are we allowed to eat? How are we allowed to eat soy stuff? So he said you have to come on to another principle. Another principle called Zev Zegoyrin. In other words, I put this together. That means this, and I have this, and I cause this reaction. Goyrin means to cause something, right? To cause. So I said I did this, and it caused this. Okay. So there are two opinions in the Talmud. If I put two things together like that, one opinion says it's permissible. Another opinion says forbidden. How do we hold? How do we hold, practically speaking? We hold in two different reactions. We hold that, we hold it's permissible. But my Rebbe said, just want to give a drop of background there. But my Rebbe says, if you don't come on to that, you don't come on to that axiomatic principle, you got 70% of everything you can't touch. You can't touch. Yeah, because it got soy in it. Kosher is complex. Not as straightforward as most people, as most people think. Yeah. So the things, yeah, permissible, not permissible, this and that. But keep in mind, there's a lot of background. There's a lot of background going on, people not aware. Totally not aware. Right? And someone say, ask a question. Good question. It's a good question. And if I look straight the verse, I'll give the example. Torah says, right? It says, Book of Leviticus, you have an obligation to rebuke your fellow Jew. But you shouldn't bring yourself to sin. Meaning you can't embarrass someone. Right? We don't know how to rebuke today. Right? In general. Even though that's not necessarily an excuse not to give rebuke. Right? Because one opinion, Talmud says in the Gemara in Erechim says that if a person's not ready to smack you in the face, you didn't rebuke him enough. They have to be ready to smack you, then you know you gave good enough rebuke. Right? But some people will say, we don't know how to give rebuke, so you don't have to do it. Right? But that's limited, and it's a very complex thing. Right? It's not a straightforward thing. It's very complex. Someone said, you see someone doing something wrong, regardless of what level of knowledge they have, even if they're a potato farmer in Idaho. No offense to anyone's a potato farmer, grew up in Idaho, meaning they don't know anything about Judaism. Yeah. So he says, hey, okay, if you rebuke them, yeah, aren't they gonna hate Torah more? Potentially. You're gonna say it depends how you rebuke them, whatever. But let's say they don't want to hear Muslim. They don't want to hear it. Right? So if they don't want to hear it, you're not helping them. You're making the matters worse. Okay. Right? So I said, this is very complex. He said, yeah, but the Torah says. Right? I can also read it in any language. Doesn't matter. The Torah says you got to rebuke them when you see them doing something wrong. Very good. What does the Torah not tell me? Right? Let's analyze. Let's be thinkers over here. What does the Torah not tell me? The Torah does not tell me how to do it. The Torah is a law book. Do this, don't do that. Doesn't give me any definitions. This is exactly why you need oral law. You need a running commentary. Because the obvious question, Moshe Rabbeinu was in the desert 40 years teaching them Torah. What do you mean teaching them Torah? 613 commandments. Even if you have 3 million people, how long is it going to take? 10 years? Let's say you have 1,000 people. Moses trained 1,000 people, 10,000 people trained to teach everybody. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So how long is it going to take to teach 613 commandments? 10 years? 15 years? So they know it really well. 20 years? If you got good enough teachers, I don't think it should take that long. So what's he teaching them in the desert for 40 years? Teaching them this. Right? Because the Torah only tells me, do this, don't do that. Because the Torah tells me in Leviticus chapter 23, just tell me what a sukkah is. You got to sit in a booth in a sukkah for 7 days. Anyone have any idea what a booth is? Does it have any walls? Does it have a roof? Also, in that same chapter, I have to bring certain items in front of God. A lulav, palm fronds, a nice smelling fruits, myrtle leaves, and willows. How many of each? Doesn't tell me. Doesn't tell me what a nice smelling fruit is. No. You think it's a peach, someone thinks it's a pomegranate, someone thinks it's a quince, someone thinks it's a watermelon. No one in the right mind is going to call it a citron. It's a lemon on steroids. Who's going to say it's a lemon on steroids, an esrog? Even better, the laws of Shabbos. Torah tells me, if I get the laws of Shabbos wrong, get the death penalty and you get spiritually cut off. The Torah only mentions 3 things. The Torah says you're not allowed to carry, you're not allowed to cook, you're not allowed to kindle a fire. Yeah, those are the 3 categories. Rabbis derived another 36. People say, they're adding to the Torah. Okay, it's a different issue. Right? That's a different issue. But the Torah has to give me definitions. If the Torah doesn't give me definitions, how do I know what to do? I have no idea. So I don't want to listen to rabbis. Why are you going to listen to them? There's no one else to listen to. Because the Torah says, Book of Deuteronomy, you got to listen to the Kohen and Levite in every generation. And if you don't listen to them, and if they say what's left is right, right is left, still have to listen to them, death penalty. If you don't listen to them. Who are the Kohanim in every generation? The Levites in every generation, the rabbis. Right? So people don't want to listen. They want to do whatever they want. I promise you. I'm not going to curse anyone, but anyone, in this process, whether it stays a non-Jew, as a Noahide, or want to convert, you don't have proper guidance. You just spin your wheels. You could have over 100 IQ. You'll be spinning your wheels. Person needs guidance. Everybody needs guidance. There's no question. Yeah. So if that's the case, so the person says, back to my original case, rebuking other people. Yeah, I get a rebuke. Very good. How do you rebuke? What cases do you rebuke? What if the person doesn't know nothing from nothing? I still going to rebuke them? And they're going to hate Torah more, then they're going to blame me? What if you don't know how to rebuke? Maybe you have to find someone else to rebuke. Maybe you have to pay someone to rebuke. Right? I don't have any definitions here. So the question's a valid question. What's the problem? What's the obvious problem? The obvious problem is you're missing information. You're missing a lot of information. That's right. So the person gets flustered and says, it's not fair. It's not fair I don't have this information. You gotta learn. What do you think I've been doing for the last 30 years? There's a lot to learn. Tremendous amount to learn. It doesn't happen overnight. But over time, anything you learn are building blocks. You take it step by step. Right? Certainly for a Jew, you take it tractate by tractate, but you got to get the knowledge. Doesn't happen overnight. It's frustrating. I get it. Right? Again, the question's a legitimate question, but you're missing a lot of information. So you can't look at it literally. Right? It says you got to rebuke. Okay, tell me when. Tell me what case. Tell me who we're talking about. And what if a person, let's say, right, I'll make it a little more graphic, Holocaust survivor, not too many of them left, but let's say a Holocaust survivor. Yeah, and you see they don't keep Torah mitzvahs, you're going to rebuke them for what they've been through? Someone gone through trauma. Someone's gone through trauma, and they don't keep Torah mitzvahs. They're angry at God or whatever. Yeah, they're still liable. Yeah. So the question is how God's going to look at it, right? With a whole nother discussion. Yeah, and just keep this in mind. When you read what the Torah says, you got to understand what it means. That's why the Christians messed everything up, because they don't have a clue what any of these means. Right? Yeah. Let me see. A lot of questions here. Someone says outside soybean grown the same, but on the inside is porn. Okay. I mean, again, regardless of that, the things, yeah, you got to stay away from. But, people will say, anyone's eating pork, will say, very tasty, extremely tasty. Yeah. So we say, yeah, it's probably very tasty. But what can we do? My father in heaven says I can't eat it. It's probably very tasty. It's probably very good. Sure. If you didn't know any of these things before, you would have thought otherwise. Person will say, well, I wouldn't eat pig because the way, look how they live. Look at the things they do. It's a disgusting animal. Yeah, maybe. But who cares? Kill the animal, fry it up. Have great pork chops. What's the problem? You think anybody in their right mind thinks that, when they're eating shrimp, that it's what do you call it? It's a cockroach of the sea? That they're eating a cockroach? You think? I mean, there are people who eat cockroaches also. Probably also high in protein. Yeah. Yeah, or other things. Yeah. But you think for 1 second they're thinking that? I mentioned, I think I mentioned this week, about lobsters. People eat lobster, right? They don't think anything of it. And how are lobsters cooked? They're boiled alive. They're boiled alive. Now, you think it bothers most people that eat it? I don't think so. People make it home. They, buy. Again, I grew up in New England, grew up in Boston. Yeah, so they buy a whole bunch of them. Have this huge pot. Boil up the pot. And they're clacking away, even though their claws are what do you call it? Are tied together, so they they can't do anything, and they're boiled alive. Is there anything more cruel than that? Anyone I know who eats lobster, they care less. Not even an issue. It's all about Chaim. It's causing pain to the animal. I want to eat it. So what? That's the way you eat it. That's the best way to cook it. Right? So you would say, okay, it's better clock it over the head. Right? Take a hammer and go whap and kill it. Okay. Then eat it. Then boil it alive. Yeah. Sorry. Then boil it. It's dead. Okay. So then you cut it up. You do whatever you want. So no, it tastes a lot better this way. Blah, blah. Whatever it is. If you killed it first, I would never, I'm sure people wouldn't say anything. Right? It doesn't matter how you kill it, right? But if you boil it alive, that's pretty cruel. That 100% is pretty cruel. And if you go into a restaurant, a seafood restaurant, right? You got, I don't know, 50 people there, 100 people there. Person uses the microphone there. So I just want everyone to know, anyone eating lobster here? Here's the lobster. This is how it's cooked. We're gonna give you a secret. This is how it's cooked. Boiled alive. Anyone still want lobster? Yeah, we'll take it. No problem. You think anybody cares? I don't think anybody cares. Some people may think, oh, this, that. They're not going to not eat it. They're not sensitive. Right here. Right here how it's killed. So what do they boil it alive? Tastes better that way. Very good. They care? It's cruel. Right? You can say, but killing an animal is cruel in general. No, that's the way we do it. The way we do it, they die straight away. They can raise a sharp knife. It's a trachea in the windpipe. Boom. Animal dies straight away. Animal dies straight away. Yeah. Spoke about that also. Yeah, a lot of things plant-based, actually lab-grown meat. Yeah, it can also be. I would tell you it's better not to know any of these things. Right? If you're going to eat something that's processed and other things, okay. Right? Okay, so it's a limit. Maybe there's a limit. But a lot of things, the way they're made and stuff like that, if you would, think about it in general, you wouldn't eat it. In general, you wouldn't eat it. I mean, everyone said, a lot of these cows, the hormones they're given and other things, he said, well, what are you gonna do? You gotta eat. You gotta eat. Other ways is okay. Like what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do over here? So if you're eating something processed, you're not gonna really ask the question. But I would say, first thing, let's say even in a kosher restaurant, whatever. Yeah, you want to go snooping around the back, see how they're cooking stuff? Probably not. There have to be, obviously health concerns and, different things. True, right? But I guarantee, or if you went into a factory and you saw how things are produced, right? You saw how, cakes and cookies and things are produced. You wouldn't touch them. In general, I was once somewhere and I saw in a room they were making what do you call it? Whatever candies, different types of candies. So all these vats, I'm not going to get gross. All these vats like spilling over, and you see flies around different things, and whatever you see, the whole process. So this whole process. This goes into this, and this does this, and this other thing does this, and then at the end, you get this nice looking what do you call it? Wrapper. Get a nice wrapper and this candy, and so I was with somebody. It was like, so you want one? I was like, no, I'll pass. We're not thinking this way. Should a person go check these things out? No. I wouldn't tell people to do it. It's a waste of time. Right? But it's an eye-opener. It's an eye-opener. Keep in mind one thing. Kosher doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. Doesn't mean it's healthy. I'll tell a story. I remember years ago, I used to sit with my Rabbi in the basement, in the rabbinical court. This whole controversy still is a controversy today about wigs made out of human hair from India, right? That were used for idolatry. So anyway, whatever. This has been a whole thing for years and years going on. That idolatry obviously forbidden. Can't use anything that's idolatrous for anything, right? Can't get any benefit from it. So in the same building where the rabbinical court is, they have a division of the rabbinical court for kashrus, right? It was in the same building. So somebody comes down from that office, He comes in the basement. There was no case going on, so he came in. He said, I want to testify. I want everyone to know that all the human hair we use in food, for kashrus, all comes from Korea. No question of idolatry. Not a problem with idolatry. So you see, these rabbis, big smiles, giving each other like a high five. Okay, I'm exaggerating here. And like they're all ecstatic, they're all smiling, whatever. And I'm like, ew, you're telling me we eat human hair? You put human hair, like what, for protein? That's what I said. Right? Seems like Torah giants of generations. I was like, you're telling me we're eating human hair? So they looked at me. So one of the rabbis says, Chaim, that chocolate bar you just ate? I said, yeah, what about it? He goes, you want to know what into it? He goes, you don't care if we live or die. I go, it's about money, right? I was like, it's about money, right? They all were laughing. I was like, no, I don't want to know. Don't even humor me what's in this candy bar. Yeah, yeah, makes you think. Human hair, food, you know. But they were like ecstatic. Yeah, it's not a problem with idolatry. But I was like, you guys aren't grossed out by it? Like, they were taking me a tour of like different things and koshers. Yeah, that would have been time to get grossed out. But I'm like, okay, so like they put human hair in, so big deal. Not forbidden. Add a little bit of protein, right? It's good protein, very good. I thought that was even even for me a bit much, but like one of the rabbis said, you want to know all the things that went into your candy bar? I was like, no, don't ruin it. Just let me enjoy the taste. Yeah. Then you're gonna start asking what bad things happen to good people. Cleaning for Passover. With surfaces, should you cover them with aluminum foil? Yeah. You could do it with some people use like linoleum or other type of paper, but it should be thick, because if you put something hot on it, you don't want to just go, why do we cover it in general, even if it's something you can't kosher, right? Let's say it's a, what do you call it? Not it's a counter you can't really kosher. Let's say it's made out of stone, made out of rock or something, you can't kosher, right? Let's say, so we're stringent anyway. We'll pour boiling water over it, we'll wash it down, and then we'll wipe it, and then we'll kosher. Sorry, and then we'll put, something strong over it, either let's say linoleum or, very strong paper, or they have this very strong aluminum foil. Like, it's not Passover if you ever like cut yourself. They have like very, very thick aluminum foil. Now, why do you cover it? Because if you put a Passover pot down, maybe there was chametz there, and the Passover pot is hot, and this and that. So what's going to happen? Something might have happened, right? There might be some level, that maybe the chametz got on the pot and everything's straight, right? Maybe, right? Maybe. So we're super stringent. So yeah, we covered. We covered even if you can't kosher. We kosher anyway. So how does it help? Good question, right? It really shouldn't help, right? But we do it anyway. We do it anyway, and then we cover it. So yeah, either you cover with aluminum foil, should be strong aluminum foil. The other aluminum foil, when it gets wet, gets ruined very quickly, right? Or people sometimes use linoleum, right? That's also heat doesn't penetrate it, right? Or very, very strong aluminum foil. So if you use very strong aluminum foil, put the pot down, nothing from the bottom's gonna. Even if there would be chametz there, nothing's gonna happen. But even if someone's worried about that. Yeah, if you had a pot or whatever, you put it on a trivet. Very easy. Yeah, you put it on a trivet, on something wooden, so it doesn't even go on the aluminum foil. So then what's the point of aluminum foil? Okay, but Passover, we got stringency after stringency. Should it be covered? Yes. It should be covered. Right? That's the answer. Aluminum foil, again, should be strong aluminum foil, can cover with linoleum, certain type of paper that's very strong, that's absorbent. Right? So you cover with that just about anything, right? That's going to be, I would say, if you put something hot on, it's not just going to evaporate, right? Something like that. That's why they have this very, very strong, aluminum foil, to put on that's very, what do you call it, very strong. But again, you don't have to use aluminum foil. You can use other things also. Someone there says shrimps taste like gum. Okay, could be oysters disgusting. Yeah. Listen, you grow up that way, like, where I grew up in Boston, seafood's a huge thing. Seafood is a huge thing, right? And so people slurp out these oysters, just gonna say, oh, it's so great. Yeah, yeah, it tastes kind of grimy, right? Taste is grimy, yeah. But you think, again, what's my point? My point is, you think for 1 second people care that they want to eat it? No, they don't care one iota. They just want to eat it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's slimy, it's more slimy, it's less slimy, whatever it is. That's what they're paying for, right? I remember once. I remember once when I was grammar school. We had these projects we had to do, and someone once brought in once I don't know, did a whole thing about seaweed. So I gave everyone taste seaweed. Like, okay, also tastes kind of grimy if you think about it. But yeah, so again, for non-Jews, you can eat it. It's not a problem. I'm just, for some people, they might get grossed out. They'll say, how could I ever eat such a thing? Stuff that's like, really nasty. Okay. Other people who want to eat it, I guarantee you. I'll bet all the money I don't have. Guarantee you they're not thinking, one after the other. Lobster, they care how it's cooked alive, couldn't care less. They say the tastier, the better. Not going to care how it's cooked. Right? But yeah, some of these things, if you think about it, again, I'm not going to get gross here, but if you think about it, it sounds absolutely disgusting, totally disgusting. People eat it. People eat it. Someone I mentioned taking a culinary degree, yeah, yeah. It's like I said, if a person has issues, you don't need anything. You don't need anything processed. If you eat stuff processed, you won't survive, right? If you think about it, right? That's the point. If you think about it. Yeah. We see any other questions? Someone here says, people want to learn Torah. They say, yeah, can you teach me Kabbalah? Yeah, got that also. Everything's more esoteric and this and that. Yeah, makes sense. Because everything else kind of, come on. You got to teach the book of Leviticus. You got to speak about sacrifice. That's also interesting. I want to learn Kabbalah. It's a lot more interesting. Yeah, you can make anything interesting if you know what you're doing. Right? You have, you have enough information. But yeah, always want to learn something not allowed to. It's well beyond them. Can you tell me the phrase or the story of King David? Uh, yeah. Listen, there are a lot of things that people, people say. You want to know what's the polite way to answer? There are certain things, what's an obvious question? Let's say about King David and how great he was and how did he sin with Bathsheba? Yeah? Yeah. So the Gemara says, anyone says he sinned with Bathsheba is making a mistake. But according to the words, makes it sound like he sinned. What did he really do? First of all, she wasn't really married. Because anyone who went to war, right, gave his wife a bill of divorce. If it didn't come back, she was considered divorced. So she wasn't really married. Not only that, and then, even though he sent her husband to the front lines, he's more of Malchus. He was he rebelled against the king, deserves the death penalty. So he's saying technically, maybe, according to Psalm 51, Nathan the prophet gave him, a hard time about it. Okay. But did he really do anything wrong? That's the question. Right? The Gemara says he really didn't do anything wrong, technically. Right? So, yeah, you have to explain, if someone's going to ask you, can you teach me Kabbalah? Right? Now, what would be your simple answer? I would tell you, say, I don't know Kabbalah. I don't know anything about Kabbalah. Right? You could say it in a nice way, but why would you want to learn something that you need a tremendous amount of knowledge to learn? You don't have to be blunt. You can say if you're just a beginner, you're just starting out, maybe one day you'll get there, but you got to start with the basics. You won't understand it anyway. Even if I could teach it to you, you wouldn't understand it. I remember once I asked my Rabbi a question about something. And he's like, oh, you want a Kabbalah? I was like, no. A certain explanation, in homiletic text of the Gemara, and I got it, so they always learn. It's either Kabbalah or, it's not so hard to understand. So the Rabbi told me, he said, oh, it's a good thing you know this. Very good. He said, I give you a blessing. You should be able to learn that also. You should be able to understand that very well also. He said, move on. That was his answer. So I said, "Oh, I bet the Rav could teach it to me." He said, "Yeah, you don't have time." So I took off my watch, I put it down, I said, "I got all afternoon. Let's go. I'm ready." I was like, "I'm ready for I'm ready to learn." He goes, "Your wife's calling you. Go home." I was like, "Come on, I got time. I really got time." It's like, you gotta be ready for it, right? So you can say it in a nice way. You don't have to be obnoxious about it. You can say it, you can say it in a nice way. You can say these things, very complex. You need, you better, it's better start off with with easier things. Now, you can also say, and this is probably true also, a lot of these things they're going to ask you, you probably don't know what to say. You probably don't know what to give over, right? So you can say, I don't know. It's a good question. It's a deep question. I'm not there. I'm not holding there. You go ask someone else, right? That will get you out of the problem altogether, right? But, simply you could say, like, that this is, you're trying to start off here when you're really down here. You got to take it step by step. They may not like it, but that would be a good. That would be. I think that'd be a good way to politely answer them. Um, Someone asked, "Is it proper?" A public speaker. Let's say for argument's sake, generally a very good person, good teacher, but become possessed by a demon. I don't know. I don't know if they'll know they're possessed. I don't know how it works if a soul tries to get into a body, where it's being chased by all these, destructive angels and it can't go anywhere except into another body. So does that other soul in the body know this other soul was there? I guess. I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly how it works, but I would say, that um, somebody who teaches and what they're teaching is problematic. Now, it doesn't mean they're possessed. Definitely doesn't mean they're possessed because that's like barely ever happened in the history of time. It's happened here and there. Where it's called a dibuk, right? Where a soul goes into another body, but that's extremely rare. Extremely rare, right? I mean, maybe it's happened a handful of times, in history. But I would say, someone could be teaching and, even be pretty smart in different things. But if they're teaching things that they shouldn't be, or things that go against, what Torah says, that's just their evil inclination. That has nothing to do with being possessed. Torah has nothing to do with being, being possessed. You take someone like Elisha ben Abuya, or known as Acher, the teacher of Rabbi Meir. Yeah, so he already started off on the wrong foot, and then eventually went off. He's possessed. Nothing to do with possession. He was on the Sanhedrin, right? He's one of the great, one of the great rabbis of the Sanhedrin, and he went sour. Had nothing to do with possession. His evil inclination overcame. They say, he'd be learning, and then, his mind would wander to other things, forbidden things, and asking all kinds of questions, which are legitimate, but these things threw him off, took him away from Torah. Essentially, took him away from Torah. It had nothing to do with possession or anything like that. It just his evil inclination overcame him. Overcame. Yeah. Any other questions here? A lot of bread is human hair in it. uh, Great. All right. Let me see one other thing here. Got a question. Hashem is both good and evil. No, that's a mistake. That's the first mistake. God's not evil. God created evil. That is true. That is definitely true, right? Again, look at Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. God created evil. Does it mean God is evil? No. Doesn't mean he's evil. Right? People say God's been good to me. Why is it wrong to say Hashem's been evil to me? Right? God's not evil. What it means is the person going through a difficult time. If a person's going through a difficult time, where does it come from? Because of sin. Right? And God's punishing you. Okay. Right? Right? Now, it's evil that God is punishing you? No. Why do you deserve punishment? Ask the question, because you probably sinned. Most likely you sinned. This isn't suffering for no reason, right? You probably never figure out why you're getting this punishment, but it's for sin. Essentially, it's for sin. So if it's for sin, person can't say, "Oh, God's being evil to me." No, God's not evil. God created evil. Don't make that mistake. God's not evil. Can God punish people? Sure. So people can say, "I don't like what I'm going through. I'm angry at God." Okay. I mean, it's also a problem, but let's say, doesn't make God evil. God doesn't punish more than the person deserves. And their punishment is going to be measure for measure. They can say, "I don't like what I'm going through. I'm going through a hard time. Life is hard." Doesn't make God evil, right? Doesn't make God evil. Someone said, I can't pray. I can't thank God for things. My life's so bad, blah, blah, blah. So I gave a whole class on it last week, right? And I mentioned that even if a person has it bad, and it could be really bad, do they have a roof over their head even if they don't own it? Do they have food? Are they living on the street? Are they starving? Can they take care of their own needs? Can they move their fingers like this? They don't have arthritis. A lot of things to be thankful for. But we complain a lot, right? We go through difficulties. True. That doesn't make God evil. Definitely does not make God evil. It makes what I'm going through hard. True. Doesn't make God evil, though. Yeah. Any other questions? Isn't it through trials and suffering that expose how we can grow closer? Yes. Right? Right. But when you're going through it, right, we say every day we shouldn't come to trials and tribulations. But if you don't have trials and tribulations, you don't grow. True. It's catch-22. Bottom line, life is hard. You're born, the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, you're born against your will, you die against your will. In parentheses, Kaufman would say you still have to live. So is it life hard? Sure. Everyone has it hard. Whether it's livelihood, whether it's health, whether it's family, whether it's everything all put together, right? I have a lot of difficulty in life, but that makes us who we are. That helps us reach our potential. You want to reach potential otherwise. But someone would say, does it have to be that hard? I'm not God here. I don't know what a person's done in their life. I don't know how God looks at it and what the repercussions are. But someone could get totally slammed, right? I know a company just got totally slammed. Been around for many, many years. And it wasn't something they did necessarily. But they were part of a deal that was fraudulent. Now, they didn't know that. They didn't know that. They got slammed. Slammed. Yeah. So business is very hard now for them. Let go a lot of people, different things. So what happened over here? It's punishment. For sure it's punishment. This is a huge thing. I mean, the whole company's not going under, but they're in serious trouble. 100% serious trouble. So could be they had a lot of good years. I mean, up and down years, whatever, but good years, let's say. God built them up, and then, God wanted to nail them. Why? I have no idea. No idea. But God took them down. They didn't obliterate them. I mean, they're still around. They didn't get obliterated. Yeah, they're going to have a very hard time going forward. Very hard time. I'm not saying it's impossible, but they're going to have a very hard time. Guilty by association. That's how they got nailed. And it wasn't something they did, but they were part of the transaction. So they were guilty by association. So, that's it. No one's going to fund their deals now. They're blacklisted now. How they're going to dig themselves out? Very good question. But is that not punishment? It's punishment. Why? I can't answer. Don't know. Right? But God hit them very hard. Right? Hit them very, very hard. So there are repercussions. Does that make God evil? No. Right? But it strengthens the person also. We get strengthened much more when we're down than when we're up. See, if we were up and things are going well, financially, everything's good and this and that, are we praising God the way we should? No, because everything's good. Money's coming to the bank account, everything's good. Making more. No. When you're on your knees, you don't know where your next meal's coming from, you got all these bills to pay, you don't know where money's coming from. Yeah, that's a trial. It's a huge trial. Right? There's no question. Right? So a person should be whistling Dixie. They got this trial, and you're gonna say, God, I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna pass this trial, even if it's hard, but it makes us who we are. Everybody has life in life has it hard. Some have it harder in different ways, others in different ways. Very good. Yeah. But the question is how you deal with it, and it makes it stronger. Very, very true. Again, it doesn't make God evil, but God has an obligation to discipline. And sometimes, just like a father, a parent has to discipline a child, God has to discipline us. We don't get the message. The discipline could be very harsh, could be very, very harsh, but that makes us who we are. That, God wants us to overcome it, wants us to be better, makes us better. When a person's going through it, it's very hard, right? There's no, I don't think there's any question. It doesn't matter what it is. It'd be very hard in many ways. Someone here says, isn't life hard for everyone? Yeah, no question. What's your attitude towards hardship? Attitude towards hardship is that I personally have to be better. What should I work on? I'm probably a little bit of everything. A lot of things we need to work on. We need to be better. How we speak to people, how we interact, what I see. You personally got to be careful in a lot of things, right? So when things aren't going our way, we got to be better in many ways. But one of the things for sure is going to work on our faith and belief in God. That we understand this is because of me. I'm not passing the buck. This is because of things I've done. Now, question comes up all the time. What do I have to work on? So I'll say everything. A lot of things we have to work on. But you can't bite off more than you can chew. You do as much as you can do, right? Try and fix up as much. We know things we do wrong. I don't think there's any question. We may justify whatever. We know the things that we do wrong. So we gotta be careful. 100%, we gotta be careful. Shouldn't we resent it? Why? Why should you resent it? Shouldn't resent it. You should think, oh, I can't believe I got stuck with this. I can't believe I got stuck with that. Well, why'd you get stuck with it? It has to be for something you must have done. Right? Or we can blame it on what our soul has to go through. It's probably not the case. Right? A reincarnated soul, we're not going to go there, but it's for something we've probably done. Yeah. Could be a pattern. Okay. But bottom line, why, we want life to be easy and smooth. Well, life doesn't go that way. Life's not about what's fair or not fair. Why does the person have it easy? I have it more, more difficult, and can't answer. Why? I will say one thing: the more knowledge we have, the harder it is. Because you're closer to the king, God expects more. That's really the bottom line. But to have resentment, you shouldn't have resentment. I wouldn't say to have resentment. Right? We don't always thrive in these situations. But God doesn't want it to be broken either. A parent doesn't want a child to be broken. But they have to educate him in a proper way, even if it's very hard for the child. Right? That's what I would say, the same thing. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, feel free to take a look at my Facebook page, Michael Chaim Kaufman, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I get videos on the Torah portion of the week, even though I'm very far behind. Q&As, Ethics for Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBI, CHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, which I'm good. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, depending where you are.